Wessex for West Africa is basically a 12-month campaign. WaterAid is looking to reach out to its suppliers and try and get them to support the charity.
The purpose of this trip really was to help increase the perception of our supporters about WaterAid's work in Nigeria. Secondly is to help WaterAid in this area in their contacts with the local government.
This was really the first time that we were going to be on the ground and be doing the work that I'd envisaged. Langtown was a pre-intervention community.
The reception was magnificent.
At one point I didn't want to get out of the car because it was so emotional and it was kind of like a real, I sort of lost my breath for a minute. I just kind of expected to turn up and these people, to be happy, but they've not got water, so a little bit sad. And these people were cheering and singing and
dancing, clapping, children shouting. It was incredible.
I naively didn't understand that people were living like that in this day and age. In material possessions they had nothing, and in living conditions they had nothing. They were dressed in rags, no water, no sanitation, absolutely nothing.
As a group, we all headed down to the riverbed. That was probably the first time I really realised that this is what they do every day.
They were taking their water from a river that was almost dried up. They were sharing it with cattle, and the cattle were actually urinating in the water at the same time as they were collecting it to drink. So the potential for waterborne disease was immense. I wasn't quite prepared for that shock at that time.
Quite frankly, I probably at home wouldn't drink this. And it's crazy that they do this every day, really. This is kind of reality.
The amount of effort just to come and collect a bucket of water, it's not that easy. It's difficult, it's hard work, and I wouldn't like to be drinking this water.
Do it on your head. On your head.
Oh my God. I can barely pick this up.
I got loads of respect for them because carrying the water is just a task on its own. To try and balance that on your head, and it's just unbelievably heavy. You can't grasp how heavy it is.
Tremendously hard every day. They have to live with that every day. You look at Tim carrying that bucket up there. A 5-year-old child was carrying that just now. He's struggling a little bit.
5 minutes, or seems like 5 hours. This is back-breaking. In theory, it's child labour, isn't it? But if they have to have water to survive, so they've got to get it.
And then at the end, we went to this clinic, which to me was just absolutely horrendous. This is where possibly children are there to die, and it's in a room that you wouldn't put a pig into. It was disgusting.
An illness that we would get in the UK that would be gone in a few days could be fatal. They buried 7 children the week before. And when you see that and you see these children, you can't help but be moved by that. To think it's just because they haven't got fresh water and decent sanitation. Well, it's 5:30 a.m. Nice early morning call this morning, and we're on our way to go and see an unserved community. The interesting thing about this one is that we should be able to see the CLTs in action.
The most important thing that was happening that day was the community-led sanitation. And through a number of techniques, they train and they hire in specific personnel to take the community around where they live, to map out where they live, and to really look where they defecate in the open, how that's contaminating the water that they're drinking and how it's making them ill. And it was really fascinating to see slowly how the penny dropped and how a lot of the members of the community and the leaders of the community were starting to think in a different way.
Basically, the women sort of took us off and to go and see basically where they go. There's shit in the middle of the crops, and obviously this is where they grow all their vegetables, and they're pooing right in between it all, and it's disgusting because they've then got to eat what grows here. We were there within 45 minutes of that, and I think they were quite shocked at what basically we were telling them, and to teach them that and to pass on what we know. And hopefully help them live a better life and for their families and themselves was just amazing.
The CLTS staff out here are extremely professional. They go out to the communities to train and educate, which is the fundamental out here. You need to train and educate these people to help themselves. And that is the basics of what WaterAid are doing. Not just going out here providing water, but training people with hygiene and sanitation first.
If you can get the water and sanitation right, that leads to healthcare, and if you've got a healthier people, that will then lead to the education. So whilst WaterAid is only looking at one sector, that perhaps arguably is the most important sector.
We built a latrine lid.
We're going to have to mix some concrete and do some real construction work.
We worked hard. We mixed the concrete, we put it in the formwork, we struck the formwork, and we worked well as a team in front of the community to provide this community with the first latrine lid, and it was a great experience.
Because of the way the charity works, they can't do it. We're doing it as visitors, and then they'll give this latrine slab to one of the poorest members of the community who can't do it for themselves. We're allowed to help the ones that can't help themselves, but the ones that can help themselves are to be encouraged to help themselves.
Yes, they are doing a good job. For me, seeing the job was very excellent.
You feel very humbled that you've been able to do just a tiny little thing out here for these people who have got very little. It's a great experience.
We went through all the steps to educate the villagers into how they might build these slabs. And I've got to be honest, that's probably one of the most satisfying pieces of concrete that I've ever done. And I have laid quite a bit of concrete. So yeah, it was good, very good.
It was a real team effort. Everybody had a part, everybody got involved. They'll be part of what we've done and hopefully the impact we've had in Africa and in Nigeria.